I see my subconscious in external space. This is the best way to describe it. I basically live in virtual reality, my own set of virtual reality. So what you would see in the back of your brain, I see externally.
Hi, it's Runchuks. The following is our conversation with Richard Turner, who is an amazing card magician and just an extraordinary human being. It is his second time on the show. This episode is a trimmed-down version of a 4-hour call we had with Richard earlier this year, and I'm sure we'll bring out more episodes as there's just so much to learn from him, and there aren't many other people in the whole world who have as many crazy, entertaining, real-life stories to tell. Now, I find Richard's dedication to his art and his relentless energy really inspiring. It's always a pleasure to talk to him, so I hope you enjoy this conversation with the fantastic Richard Turner, episode number 52 of the Runchuks Podcast, which is Richard's favorite number. Richard, such a pleasure to have you on for a second time on the show. This is episode 52. It was meant to be your episode. It's a special number for you, and such a pleasure.
Yeah, 52 is my favorite number because 52 has brought me in a lot of dollars and a lot of fun because it's the number of a deck, full deck. Now, I was born in the year of the full deck, which is a deck with jokers, 54. But 52 is the number I grew up with. And even when I work out, we do everything in sets of 52 reps, not 10 reps like these wimps out there do. You work out with me, it's sets of 52. And then when I turned 52, I said, okay, most people start going down when they get older. I'm going the other direction. So I threw in the joker. So whenever they work out, if they're under 52, I say, you have to do 52 reps. You do not have the privilege of doing 54 reps until you turn 52. So I would do 54 reps. They would do the best they could to hit 52, which they never did.
I heard you were in Russia recently. And
yes,
for those who don't know, perhaps people listening to this 20 years in the future, we're in the middle of a pandemic right now and Russia is closed as far as I know. And you're in Texas. How did that happen? How did you get to Russia?
Well, first I was invited to be on a show called, in English it translates to Superhuman Incredible People. How's that for a title? Superhuman Incredible People. It's a takeoff from a show that's in China called Brain. And it's about people with unusual brains on the level that they can do things that are, in their words, when they refer to me, one of a kind. You're one of a kind in the world. Anyway, so they wanted me on this show, and they wanted me very badly on this show. And so they sent an invitation to the Russian consulate saying, we want Richard Turner on the show, and we were giving him an invitation to come in. The Russian consul said, no invitation. Russia borders closed. Turner, no go. And now when I would talk to them, that's what they'd say to me. And I say, but this is, I'm being invited by them. So no visa. And so then Russia won, which is the biggest network in Russia. Then they went up the ladder to the Ministry of Internal Affairs and reapproached the Russian consulate. And they said, sorry, no visa. And then they went one step up the ladder again to the Ministry of External Affairs. And they said, again, no visa for Turner. And finally, they went all the way up to President Putin's deputy prime minister. And they said, it'll be ready for you in 30 minutes. and then when I went over to Russia, when the jump off was in Istanbul to Moscow, and I got there. I don't think you're going to be able to go any further. And we had a number all set, and it was the deputy prime minister of Russia. And the guy comes back and said, who the heck are you that you're being escorted in by someone on such a high level? And they just were very nice at that point. And then actually when I got to the terminal, which was the final drop off, the guy goes, hey. Well, first he says, it says we're going to let you in, but no one's allowed in Russia. And then also he goes, hey, you're Richard Turner. I saw you in Tell. Hey, I'll let him pass. So that was just kind of random of all things to have happen. But that's how I got in. And the show was just amazing. The people on the show, they're beyond they're beyond description. One guy who could calculate things in the 5, 6, 7, 8 digits out, things that add up into the billions. And he was just amazing. And but my part, the reason why I was invited is because your audience probably knows I have no sight. I have my vision started going south when I was 9 years old, and it was a slow degeneration of the retina. Slowly, it started with the macula, which is the center that I worked its way out till it encompassed my whole field of vision. It was being basically X'd out. But my condition is called Charles Bonnet syndrome. It's French. It was first documented in 1760 by Charles Bonnet, and it's a very rare condition. And up until 1990, there were only 6 documented cases. And an author named Dr. Oliver Sacks, he's a best-selling author, and he unfortunately passed away about 2 years ago or 3 years ago. But he's probably done more studies on it. And it's a condition where a person who has lost their sight, and the most of the other cases, they're just sporadic. Like one guy described as pixie dust sprinkling in and so on. And I've been the keynote speaker and been with all the top eye surgeons in the United States. And I'm the most extreme case of CBS they've ever come across. And I've only met one, and I'm only aware of two altogether, including the one I met. And the other one, it was Dr. Stephen Bloom, who heads up the eye surgery department. He has 17 eye surgeons that work under and for him. And he has one case, and that person's suicidal because he freaks out if what we just put it in a negative term, hallucinations. Mm-hmm. And but in my case, I see my subconscious in external space. This is the best way to describe it. I basically live in virtual reality, my own set of virtual reality. So what you would see in the back of your brain, I see externally, not in my brain. Imagine it like when you're dreaming or sleeping, but I'm actually seeing what's here in front of me. And I live in 2 basic spectrums, the blue spectrum and the red spectrum. And I've actually been studied by 2 Harvard scientists. One of the neuroscientists, Dr. Ogus, kind of explained how my haptic and tactile neural network, that's the part of the brain that relates to touch, has bullied its way into my visual network, which in the brain is still fully intact. But the retina is gone. So there's no vision can go in, but yet because of this CBS is the acronym for Charles Bonnet syndrome, Charles Bonnet syndrome. I still am seeing all these images. Like I said, I have the blue spectrum is the right brain artistic, and it's random strokes of all different shades of royal blue, turquoise blue, blue-green, emerald green, light green on down the line, and they're just random like brush strokes of a paintbrush. And then in that will be just any subconscious image you can imagine, all floating around. But all the images are in 2-dimension, but they're layered 3-dimensionally. So just picture yourself underwater in a swimming pool with the light spectrum coming down, breaking down all the different colors of the light spectrum. And then in that pool is just, instead of fish everywhere, all different colors and shapes, just images of any random thing, horses, motorcycles, just anything you can imagine, all floating around in there forward, and they're close and they're distant. That's why I'm saying they're 2-dimensional, but they're layered 3-dimensionally. Mm-hmm. That's the blue spectrum. The red spectrum is all geometric, which is, as Dr. Over says, the lower part of the brain. And it's the one that relates to lines and other things. It's the left brain, analytical, math type related part of the brain. And that's all geometric shapes. The basic spectrum, the images that I see is like if you just picture a house that has the bricks laid, and then the concrete is a maroon, which is one of my favorite colors there, and then the bricks are red, and so that's the basic layout. It's like bricks everywhere. And then, or it's like a screen door grid where it's perfect squares, except for a lot bigger than a screen door, it's teeny-weeny squares. And then each of those are just circles and squares and just all these different geometric shapes. And then in the geometric shapes are, again, any random mental image that's in my subconscious. So I said all that to say that Dr. August describes how my two networks, the visual network and the tactile, the haptic network, are resonating with each other. The one bullet its way into the other, and those two parts of the brain have come together. And in the words of Dr. August, he said, you have one of the most developed tactile neural networks of anybody on planet Earth. That's his word, not my words. And that's one of the reasons why I have the touch that I have with the cards. And so I go to Russia to be on the show, and all the people on the show are all scientists. The judges, the hosts and the judges are scientists. And the person that sat at my table on my right, Velimi, I don't quite say his name quite right. He was the head of the neuroscience department at Moscow University. On my left was a woman named Olga, and then there was a couple others. And I'll send you the link so you can actually watch the episodes. Mm-hmm. I didn't even know this till I get on there. He says that I'm well studied. In his words, I'm a legend in the neuroscience departments throughout Russia and throughout the world. And I'm going, are you kidding me? I had never heard of such a thing. I had no idea that they even knew me, let alone that I'm studied and and he's been following me for 10 years. And that's why he wanted me on the show. And he actually told the audience, he said, the borders to Russia are closed. And yet we have here Richard Turner. And of course, the audience ripped out and clapped her and laughing, or not laughing, applause and happy that I was there. And he was saying that's how badly they wanted me on the show. So I said all that once again. So like I said, the networks come together. And so on the show, I was demonstrating. They wanted me to talk about these parts of the brain. And again, like I said, this is kind of random talk. Dr. August was saying one of the reasons that my visual network is intact is when I dream at night. In my dreams, most blind people have no visions in their dreams. My dreams, everything is perfectly clear. 20/20 vision. I don't see the colors, I don't see the shapes, and I see everything in full color and with audio in my dreams. And so that's another part of the reason why they know that my visual network is still fully intact. And so when I was on there, they wanted me to show how I do certain moves with the cards. And like if I cover this the last time, I apologize, but like when I deal a second, my thumb has to have the touch to push over exactly 22.6 thousandths of an inch. That's the thickness of two cards. And then when it goes across the deck to take out that second card, I have 5 microseconds. Engage that card and take it out. It takes 1,000 microseconds to equal 1 second. So I'm literally doing that in less than a blink of an eye, in a fraction of a blink of an eye. And so the touch to do that is one of the reasons why I have 3 people who have been working on that particular move for 30 years and still can't put it to its purpose. But anyway, that was just one of the things that I did. I did quite a number of things on the show. Let's get back to other areas of that. We're talking about Charles Bonnet syndrome. And really, our focus is on the martial arts. And using Charles Bonnet, and this is part of one of the reasons that they wanted me on the show, and I don't talk about this quite as much. It's kind of hard to explain. But when I train, like I said earlier, I don't do sets of 10 or 15 or 13. I do sets of 52. And then when I turned 52, I increased it to 54 reps at a time. So when I do legless, I might do 6 decks of legless. That's 6 sets of 54 at one time. That's my normal amount of just warm up with my stomach, which you can just multiply 54 times 6, and that's how many sit-ups I just did. Okay. And then, so with the Charles Bonnet and with the ability to see my subconscious in external space, when you see people train, you'll see these weightlifters saying, come on, come on, you can do it. They're just, all they're doing is bringing their physical into it. They're just trying to grunt it out physically. They're not combining mind and body together as a unit. And so what I do is when I get to the point of exertion is I will take and I will see projected in front of me, depending on the exercise. And I have all kinds of different projections that I use. I'll give you a simple one. Like when I'm doing a bench press, I will see a cable connected to the bar. And that cable goes across 2 pulleys. On the other end, I might have a counterweight, or it might be Arnold Schwarzenegger and a big gorilla. And when I get to the point of exertion, I then transfer my focus to my muscles trying to push the weight up to the image of that weight falling, or those guys pulling that cable, pulling my weight up. So I will then see them pulling the weight up. And at that point, my muscles will no longer stress as I continue to press. Hence, I never have a lactic acid buildup. And I can do tremendous amounts of repetitions. And I weigh 168. Right now I'm about 170. I put on about 2 pounds over my prime, but I'm headed to 67 years old, mind you. And but when I got my first black belt, I weighed at 168. 28 years later, when I got my 6th degree black belt, I weighed 168 and 6 ounces. And my father-in-law said, if you just would have peed first, you would have broke even. Anyway, so my point is, 50 years later, I still wear the same size waist that I had 50 years ago. It's because of being able to do all these amounts of reps. But at the same time, I also will go, I don't do it anymore, but I go to a maximum amount of weight. So I weigh 168, but I topped out at 340 on the bench press. And I could curl more than my body weight. There are people that can power their own weight on bench and military, but not as many people can curl their weight or more than their weight. And I'd always kind of blow the minds of people. I'd go to the gym and they have the bench press where they have the big wheels on, the 45-pound bar and the wheels, which are 45 pounds each. Mm-hmm. And I said, you mind if I snatch a warm-up set? And they think I'm getting ready to do a bench press. And I stand up over there, grab the bar, and I just wrap off 10 or 20 curls. And I'm just warming up with that. And they're going, dang, you a strong little guy, ain't you? And, but anyway, it's because of that ability to see different images, to divert my mind in conjunction with the physical and the mind seeing an image and putting those images together, taking the stress away from my muscles because my mind is believing that it's being helped. I'll give you a few other examples. And then I'll try to remember what I told my wife. Like another example, like say you want to do a tricep, like you're doing hammers on the ground. When I say hammers, I mean your hammer, but your tricep, you're laying flat on the ground and you're going like this. So the weight's like this. So that's when the contraction takes place, when you're contracting the muscle. The tricep is when your arm is straightening. Bicep, when you're curling in. The backside is when you're going the other direction. So what I would see when I start getting exertion is as my hand is falling, that weight is now a hammer. I am now vertical like this, and that hammer is falling, hitting a nail. And when do you have the least amount of resistance? When you're hammering a nail, it's when the hammer's going down, right? Because the weight of the hammer is pulling itself down and your hand down. When you go back up, that's when you actually have the exertion. So I will see that hammer dropping. And at that point, again, my muscles, I will no longer feel the stress as my muscles continue to press. And like a quadricep extension, that's where you take your legs on a bench like this and you straighten them out. And so when they're straight is when you're contracting the muscles on the quadricep here, and down is when they're relaxed. So I will see in front of me a rubber band that's 6 inches thick. But when I start out, it's all stretched out to like 4 inches in the center when my legs are down. And then I will see that rubber band pull up. And so it's pulling my legs up like a giant rubber band, pulling them up. And so again, my muscles combining the mind in conjunction with the body together, creating these images, I'm able to do a tremendous amount of repetitions. And like one of the silliest ones, like when I do exercise for the forearm, I'll actually chew gum. Every time my mouth closes, it pulls the fingers up as I'm doing a tricep or a forearm curl. Anyway, so those are just some of the images. And other things I can do, like I can hold my arm out straight. And I've done this as demonstration for years. And up until I hit 50, where I ended up had a shoulder surgery from a fight. I used to be, there was nobody's arm I did not bend. I would do a demonstration. I would say, back themselves up against the wall. So you're pinned up. You're pinned up against the wall. And I'd hold my arm out and I'd say, bend my elbow. And I'd always start with them. And I've had 300-pound bodybuilders. And I would be able to bend their arm. Here's their bicep, here's their arm, and I used to fold the arm up. And then I would do it. And then I would have them, nobody has ever bent my arm. And I'd sometimes push it. I have 2 people at the same time together, 2 people pushing here, 2 people pulling here, trying to bend my arm. And I'm totally relaxed. And how am I doing that? I have an image in my mind. I see my arm as a fire hose. Shooting out of my arm is thousands of gallons of water just shooting out. You're not going to bend a fire hose, a 3-foot part of a fire hose. You're not going to fold it in half when the water's shooting out. So I have that image, and I just relax and feel that water shooting out, and nobody bends the arm. So again, it's combining mind and body together. And anyway, so that's where the Charles Bonnet syndrome, CBS, has been an asset and an advantage for me in my training. And then, of course, it goes on into other areas because I'll do the same thing when I'm practicing moves with cards, and people will see me. I'll be wild. My mind I'll see in front of me exactly what I want to do with the cards. I'll picture, okay, the thumb needs to do this, and I'll break it down into piece by piece. In my hands, I'm at a dinner table. Out to dinner, and I'm watching. My hands are under the table, but because of my projecting the image, I will see exactly what's going on in slow motion. And of course, my images, let me qualify this. I'm not seeing flesh and blood images. I will see the shapes of it, but it's usually constructed from geometric images put together into the shape of the hand with cards, and then even still around it are all the colors and other things floating around. But I will sit there and watch the move, and yet there's a solid object between me and what I'm practicing. But the strange thing is, if I turn my head this way, can't do it. If I'm looking at my medicine cabinet, easiest example, where's that damn chapstick? Well, there's Vaseline, there's this. I can see every item in there, but the door's closed. Open the door, find what I want. Now, if I turn my head and I we'll go to know what's in there, it won't work. I have to be physically looking at the object that I can't see. And so then when I'm looking away, I have to see it from here. What's in the memory? I'm going, okay, in the back of the toothpaste is there. So I'm seeing it in here, not visually in front of me. So that's why you can say I'm a certified oddball. Did I tell you that last time? That I'm a certified oddball?
You did,
Yeah.
And
Not many
the
people
whole
are
backstory
certified.
as well.
Yeah, I'm a certified oddball, or a certified freak, or a certified, as they said in Russia when they were interviewing me doing the backstory. They said, "You realize you're one of a kind in the world. What's it like being one of a kind?"
First of all, I want to jump into the latest thing that you just explained about you having to physically look in the direction to see things in your mind's eye.
Right.
What's the explanation for that?
Well, there was no explanation for it. The neuroscientists have studied it, and they're now talking about how the brain is the elasticity of the brain, and how the neural networks. Anyway, there's just some things that are in the recent studies. I can't really describe them offhand because they're technical, but up until recently, there really wasn't any explanation for what is going on in my brain in the few other dozen people who have this particular condition. So there's really not any explanation. The thing is also, if I close my eyes, it's exactly the same. You lock me in a vault, and the colors are not dull. They're vivid colors. They're extremely bright, like the cells on a movie theater overhead, where they have the blues and the yellows that give the coloring for the actors. Behind them is a red thing. Behind it is a light shining, making it a real vivid red. That's the way all these things are, these colors. And like I said, it's the exact same thing if I close my eyes. But what's interesting is when I close my eyes, it's like putting on a pair of sunglasses. The hues darken for about 3 seconds, then they equalize. Now, and this is one of the things Dr. August was talking about. When I go underwater, now my eyes are closed the whole time, so I'm outside the water and I'm going underwater, and even as I'm demonstrating this for you, I'm actually seeing the same thing. The hues just changed as I went underwater into like put on sunglasses. And then a few seconds later, it equalizes back to what it was. And then when I come back out, the hues lighten up again. The level of intensity or the darkness of the different colors. Like I said, just like seeing the same thing, but with putting on sunglasses, easiest way to just go. I remember open my eyes back up. But like I said, it doesn't matter what the situation is. They said the neurons, whatever, are firing. The brain is responding to the blood going to the retinas, even though there's no sight in the retinas, because the brain is registering sight. And in fact, here I go again, filibustering is Runchuks. One of the things Dr. August said is because of the fact that my brain is still resonating and still I still have sight. And the best example is the fact that I see in my dreams totally clearly, and that I see all this other stuff. He said I'm a perfect candidate for a bionic eye, and would I consider that? And because you give it to somebody who has that's totally blind, does not have that visual network still intact within the brain, it's not going to do anything. And I thought about it, and I thought, hold it. If I do this, I'm going to lose all these other abilities that I have. And I told him, I said, Doctor, to me, this would be like taking and trading in an Enzo Ferrari for a Volkswagen Bug. I said, why would I want to do that? And then he replied back, said, if I was in your position, I probably would feel the same way. I wouldn't do it either. He said, if you take this is his words, if you take the parts out of a Volkswagen Bug and put them in a Ferrari, that car ain't going to go faster. And so I was afraid of losing my abilities that I've grown so accustomed 2 over my life. And to lose that is not I'd be trading down, put it that way. Mm-hmm. And another thing, one of the most common things I didn't even mention that I do is I constantly write in the air. Say I want to remember a phone number. I can write the number down in the air. I'll see it floating in the air just like you'd see it on a computer screen. Mm-hmm. I have what they call a eidetic memory. Take a picture, never forget it. Look things up, and I'll see it come. Oh, there it is. Oh, Doug Gorman's number, and I'll rattle it off, whatever it is. Or I remember scripts and stuff, same type of things. You'll constantly, if you're watching me close, you'll see my finger taking down notes, and that's what I'm doing is writing in the air and then taking pictures of those images. Mm-hmm. Runchuks, I asked you to grab a deck of cards. Did you find one?
I have one.
Okay, right take out quickly a king, queen, and a jack and lay them in front of you. The king on the left, queen in the middle, jack on the right.
King, queen, jack, king.
Okay.
King on the left, queen in the middle, jack on the right.
Correct. Now take out ace 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Call the ace a 1.
Yes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay.
Got it.
Now let me explain what I'm going to do. There's a game called the Tower of Hanoi that is a logic game that goes back many years. But the thing about the Tower of Hanoi is the formula is visible because you can see the progression of the discs getting larger. And the idea is to get them from one stack to the other without putting a larger disc on a smaller disc. When I was 11 years old, I created what I call Batty, B-A-T-T-Y, because this game drives you batty. And we're going to play it, and I devised it with cards because it varies the formula. But that's not why I'm having us do this. What I'm doing is I'm going to play this using my CBS, my ability to see in external space, while you're going to actually have the objects in front of you. And we'll see if your hands can keep up with you seeing the object, with me not seeing the object as I tell you what to do. So First I'll explain the object of the game. First of all, we'll take the 5 and lay it face down on the jack.
Face down on the jack, done.
Okay. Now the other cards, 1 through 4, I want you to mix them up best as you can, just to scramble them in your hand. You have 4 cards that you mixed in, okay?
Yeah. Now
lay them face down on top of the 5, which is on the jack. So on the jack right now is the 5 followed by 4 random cards, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay, and then we have the king and the queen next to them. And we'll call the king A, the queen B, and the jack C, A, B, C for simplicity.
Oh, all right.
Now the object of this game is to get your cards from a mixed up state on C in order on the A, the king, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And there's only one rule. You move between the 3 pads, the jack, queen, and queen, king, but you cannot put a high card on a low card. You cannot put a 3 on top of a 1, but a 1 can go on top of a 3, a 2 can go on top of a 3, 4 cannot go on a 1, and so on. So you cannot put a high card on a low card. So you are going to see these cards, and I'm going to tell you where to move them, and we'll see if you can keep up with them. I won't go too fast at first.
All right.
And we're going to get them all in order, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 on A. Okay, so turn over the first card and tell me what it is.
All right, that's a 3.
On the A, next card. On the king, next card.
Ace.
Put it on the 3, on the A, next card.
Deuce.
Okay, leave it where it is. Move the 1 to the queen, put the 2 on the 3, put the 1 on the 2. So now on the king, you have 3, 2, 1, yes?
Correct, yes.
Turn over the 4 and put it on the queen.
All right.
With me?
Yes.
Put the 1 on the 4. Put the 2 on the jack. Put the 1 on the 2. Put the 3 on the 4. Put the 1 on the king. Put the 2 on the 3. Put the 1 on the 2. Now you should have 4, 3, 2, 1 on the queen, yes?
Yes.
You keep up with it, move the 5, turn over the 5, put it on the king. With me?
Yep.
Okay. Move the 1 to the jack, put the 2 on the 5, put the 1 on the 2, put the 3 on the jack, put the 1 in the middle, put the 2 on the 3, put the 1 on the 2, put the 4 on the 5, put the 1 on the 4, put the 2 in the middle, put the 1 on the 2, put the 3 on the 4, put the 1 on the jack, put the 2 on the 3, put the 1 on the 2.
Done.
Did you keep?
Yeah.
Good for you. But see, I'm sitting there watching it in front of me, these cards. So I'm actually seeing it playing out. And I've actually played out a level that, just to give you an idea, it starts at level 3, which is 6 to 7 moves to resolve. And every time you add 1 card, it doubles plus 1 the minimum number of moves it'll take to resolve it. Like a level 11 will take between 1,023 to 2,047 moves, depending on the random mixing of the cards. And I've actually done a level 15, which if it was the tower, it would only be 15 discs high. And the combinations are in the trillions times trillions, 15 to the 15 factorials. And the combinations are between 16,000 to 32,000 moves are the combination possibilities. And on that particular one, it took me 7 hours and 5 minutes to unscramble it. I'll never do it again.
Wow, 7 hours and 5 minutes.
7 hours and 5 minutes to unscramble it. Anyway, so but that was just a physical example of using the mental brain and the ability to visualize, for me, in external space, what you were doing, but I was seeing.
Wow. That's a very useful exercise as well for the tricks that you're doing, because we discussed the last time, when you're dealing seconds, when you're dealing through the middle of a deck, you have to follow the position of the cards, who you're dealing with, and it has to be seamless. You can't stop and think about it. It has to happen mid-deal.
Yes, and when I'm doing some of the things, as I think I mentioned the last time, when I take a deck of cards, I'll have someone shuffle it up, and I'll say, how many players? 5. Where do you want to sit? 3. What hand do you want? Full house. And I'll start dealing out, and I'll let them take the cards out of my hand anytime they want, as many times they want. Hold cards back and just give me any part of the deck, and I'll make the hand they just selected the winner, and most of the time with the hand they wanted in that particular hand. But as you were saying, which is astute, is that my brain, as I'm dealing, I have microseconds to determine, engage, and then deal. So that's a real useful. That's how this visualization is useful. Put it that way. I was phrasing my sentence downward.
I'm very curious to try this one on my own time. Obviously, I'm not gonna make you suffer through it, but I'm gonna.
We can do it together, and if you get lost, I'll tell you what to do.
No. I'll do it. Obsess about it, like you do, and then I'm going to report to you about it.
And start with a 3, which 3 you can do in a matter of seconds, and then a 4, and then 5, and then once you get 5 down twice, put the 6 in there. It's going to be twice as difficult. Put the 7 in there. Now you're going to start going nuts. 8 is when it really starts frying your brain, because you get lost in your stuff.
For me, it's going to be interesting to do it in my mind's eye.
Oh, that's
because I'm not really worried about, because as you were saying, the things I can see the cards in front of me, and I got the point of the game, so I was actually on point or ahead. Because obviously you have to vocalize what I need to do. I already see what I need to do, but for me to do it in my mind's eye, to make sure that I actually don't mess up, that I actually track the position of the cards. That's going to be an interesting, because how can I check myself, right? But it's going to be an interesting exercise. I'm really curious to try. Richard, since you mentioned the movie and the production, and we talked about it briefly the first time we had a conversation on the show, do you have any updates? How is it going? What's going on there?
Yeah. Well, when I did, this guy from Singapore, his name is Patrick. He's 4th generation, very successful business family. As he calls it, privately owned offices, the way they phrase it. And he has investments all over the world, venture capitalists and different things. And his latest one that was just went on the NASDAQ, went on the Dow here in the United States 2 months ago, called FUBO TV, Fubo TV. And what it is the Netflix, it's the sports version of Netflix. And so it's like and they have a contract with, out here where we have Disney and ABC, which is one of our networks, and then ESPN, which is a sports network, and all the franchises, football, baseball, basketball, all different sports franchises. So all those sporting games will be streamed live on Fubo TV. And he was an initial investor and it started. Then he bought another company out of Germany, expanded further. Then he merged together with Fubo, and then he took it live, took it on the NASDAQ, opened at $10 a share 2 months ago. And then within a month, it was up to $27 a share. So if you would have put in 10,000, that 10,000 would be 27,000 today. But anyway, that's what he does. Anyway, when I was doing his show, he said, "Richard, I hear they want to make your movie into a life. I want to be part of it." I said, "Are you serious?" "Yes. Do you need money? If you need money, I can get money, whatever you need." And I said, "Well, that's always the initial thing is money." And so, and he wants to have what's called a A-list production. He wants an A-list writer. And we have a number of writers that we have on our docket or on our list, like the one that wrote Schindler's List and some others. Mm-hmm. And so an A-list writer is pricey in and of itself. And then, but he wants A-list directors and actors. And some of the people that they're suggesting play me in the film. One is Ryan Gosling. Another is Jared Leto. He's a rock and roll star as well as a Oscar-winning actor. He's a method actor. He really becomes his part. He did one. I think it was one where about the gay guy that got AIDS, and he actually reduced his weight down to 111 pounds for that film. In another film he did, where he played the guy that killed John Lennon. He put on 70 pounds. And then he becomes that person during the whole film. And so he's a method actor, Stanislavski theory of acting. Another one is Matthew McConaughey, who he and I live 50 minutes apart from each other. And who I think is I just like him. I like his films. They're fun. And another one is Leonardo DiCaprio. That's one of the ones that one of our guys would like to play the part. If I had my druthers, I kind of like Matthew McConaughey because he's a Texan. And then Dai Vernon, my card teacher, said something similar. He said, "Richard, if you can do anything better than everyone else in the world, people will try to break down your doors to meet you. They'll do anything to meet you." So I said all that to say that talent trumps wealth. Talent trumps wealth. Skill trumps wealth. But another way, Steve Jobs always wanted Bob Dylan to sing at his first wedding. Here's a guy wealthy as all get out, can't get Bob Dylan to come. And then he did end up playing at his third wedding, I believe it was. Mm-hmm. Another way, Tiger Woods. He has talent. He'll be on the golf course with the President of the United States, Bill Gates. Some of the most wealthiest people in the world want this golfer to come be with them. And in my case, it's the same thing. And there are these people that are wealthy beyond my imagination and have power, and they're treating me like, they're so honored to be in my presence. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, if you only knew, I'm just a little guy with a deck of cards, but I just happen to be able to do things that others can't. And because of that, I've had unusual, amazing privileges. Like I said, I told you about going to Russia and being escorted in by the deputy prime minister of the country to entertain people. Like one time I was performing for, in front of me was Johnny Carson, To my left was Gene Kelly. To my right was Gregory Peck. And Gene Kelly says, Johnny, how's he doing this stuff? You understand this stuff, Johnny? And Johnny goes, I have no idea, but he sure does it beautifully. And Gregory Peck says, I know who my next partner is going to be. You're going to come over and play cards for me and be my dealer and so on. Anyway, and then probably my favorite is I can say that I've been kidnapped and hugged by the 3-time boxing heavyweight champion of the world, Muhammad Ali. I was a big fan of Ali because I was a fighter. And Ali, I grew up watching all his fights. And when I was fighting, he was fighting, but he was getting millions. I was getting hit. And I won a championship in Las Vegas hosted by Siegfried and Roy, who was at the time the number one act in all of Las Vegas and had been for years. It was 1982. And Ali was there to watch this competition to see who's the best card man and close-up performer in the world. And it was voted on the same way as the Olympics. And I had all 10s. So I obviously won. And so I got what's called the Golden Lion Award from Siegfried and Roy. And I won the competition with Siegfried and Roy. A guy named Dennis Marks, who was president of a big company, entertainment company. He said, there's a guy who wants to meet you. And I said, who? He said, come follow me. Anyway, I get into this big suite, presidential suite. In the middle of the commotion is the 3-time boxing heavyweight champion of the world, Muhammad Ali. And we started seeing shows together. And we're time where he said, let's go leave the girls behind. I'm going to take you to a theater show. And so we're at the theater. You got us front row seats right to the left of center stage. And back then, like I said, I see the corner of my eye. And Ali's sitting to my right. Stage is that way. And I would now and then catch his eyes. And of course, it was reflected off the lights from the stage. And it looked like he wanted to kill me. And I'm only 18 inches or so away from his eyes. And I'm looking at him, and he'd catch me catching him looking at me, and he'd turn away. Then I'd catch him staring at me again, and I'd look at him, and he looked like he wanted to kill me. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, Ali, we're friends. Why are you looking at me like you want to kill me? And finally goes, that's a good-looking mustache. All that time he wanted to kill me, I thought he wanted to kill me. I have this big handlebar mustache. He was admiring my mustache. And I thought, if he looks like he wants to kill you when he's admiring you, what does he look like when he really does want to kill you? And I thought, that's a scary thought. Another time, one of the tricks he liked to do play on me anyway, is his hands were so bad, he'd snap his fingers behind your head. I'd turn and look like, it's only me and his 2 bodyguards, as if he needed bodyguards. He was bigger than both of his bodyguards. Anyway, so I'd hear the snap, I'd turn around, and he just got a big kick out of doing that. And then he did this trick for me, which is funny as all get out. He had this wand, like a magic wand, and he had it, and he'd hold it in the air, and here's the wand, here's his hand. And usually you put your hand between the hand and the object, right? So there's no strings. Yeah. Here's the wand. He put his hand below it. He goes, look, no strings. So there could have been 1,000 strings because he did put his hand between the object and his hand. He put it underneath the object. And this one I have to be a little politically correct because to say it the way it was stated or what actually happened, you can't even say these words now. So I'll substitute them. So Ali, all he wants to see is me. He said, do that again. He said, how is it that I shuffle and you can make me win every time? Well, you win it. How do you do that? Do that again, over and over and over. And there were about 6 world-renowned magicians in there with us in a suite. And one of them was named Slidini. You can Google him. Very famous magician. And so now Ali finished watching me, and his wife, Veronica, said, Ali, come have your soup. I'm pretty sure it was Veronica at the time. Anyway, so he goes to eat. He sits like this, head down, slurping soup. And Slidini is 90 degrees right to his right at the table with 6 coins laid out. going to show him what he's known for. Very famous magician. And he could, all he says, you want to watch. Sliding had I think it was from, I can't remember what country, but he had a very strong accent. And you watch, I show you what I do. And Ollie wouldn't budge from slurping his soup. And then he says, you want to slurp soup or do you want to watch? And then this other guy named John, whatever his name, John, somebody named John. He goes, if Ollie wants to slurp soup, if he wants to eat a soup, he can eat soup. After all, he's bigger. Ollie jumped from his chair and say, did you call me a N-word? Big rhymes with bigger. And of course, John Cornelius goes, no, I didn't say you're this. I said you're bigger. I said, Ollie's bigger. I says, I thought you called me a rhymes with bigger. And he slowly sat down, and later he goes, tells me I'm just funning with him. So he scared the piss out of that guy just because he's had a word that rhymed with bigger, and he did it on purpose. And he told me I'm just funning with him. And of course, no one else knew it. Everyone else was trying to avoid it, and I thought it was just so funny. And I find out whenever that word word rhymed with that other word, N-word, he would do that to the person just to give him a hard time, have the heavyweight champ coming after you. Anyway, so now a year later, I'm in a casino and 4 big African-American men come up to me and they go, Richard Turner, you're coming with us. And I'm sitting there thinking, I don't think so. Anyway, they push 2 in the front, 2 behind me, and I'm like a dice, the 5 spots on a dice on the center spot with 2 in the front, 2 in the back. Pushed me out the back of the casino. Didn't go through the doors, went out the back through the doors. They stuffed me in a limousine. Limousine zips away, zip, 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 zip. And behind, they didn't go out on the main street. They're just going behind. They pulled up behind another casino. 2 in the front, get out. They pull me out, and the other 2 behind me. And we go through the back end of this other casino, down these passageway hallways, into this big suite where Ollie is there waiting for me. He runs up, throws his arms around me in a big bear hug, goes, Richard, how you doing? So good to see you again. Said, I heard how you can find cards under impossible conditions. Can you show me? So Ollie had me kidnapped because he heard I could do something and he wanted to see it. So that's why I've been kidnapped and hugged by the 3-time boxing heavyweight champion of the world. But anyway, he was just a wonderful, wonderful man, and one of the kindest hearts you'll ever meet or ever would have had if you ever met him, you would see that. And outside of the ring, he was amazing.
Wow, that's such a beautiful story.
Yeah,
Before you told that, when you mentioned all the names, and I was wondering, I wonder who of the celebrities that you've met impressed you the most.
And I answered it.
And you answered it before I asked the question. Yeah, it's incredible. It's an incredible story. Richard, I also wanted to ask you about the role of mentors in your life, because obviously, starting with, I suppose, your sensei Murphey, Dai Vernon, the acting,
Steve Terrell and Gene Fisher. I have 4 main ones. I call them my 4 mentors, my 4 angels, my 4, any way you want to phrase it. And the first one, to start off with, was Sensei Murphey. He laid the foundation for me to believe I could do anything. 2 years later, I met my first director, Steve Terrell, Terrell. He was starred in many movies back in the 50s and early 60s, number of television series that he was in, and he died in almost every Western made. Be the bad guy that comes into town, and Lucas McCain, the rifleman, he draws on him, he gets shot or whatever. He died just about every Western made, as well as heaven. He was played the oldest son in Life with Father, and anyway, all kinds of television shows, Drag Strip Girl starring Steve Terrell. And so anyway, Steve was my other one. He's the one that taught me how to play the part of a sighted person, and also would tell me that if you become the best, people listen to what you have to say. And then after that, that was 18. And at the same time, Murphey was telling me to put meat on your bones. So there was a champion gym got run by a guy named Gene Fisher, who held the world's record in the curl in 1963. Curled unrecorded 220, recorded 221 pounds and unrecorded 226 pounds in his weight category, which is in the 200-pound weight category. Mm-hmm. Anyway, he was only right up the street from me. So I, at that time, it was $9 a month for the thing, for the gym training, or the gym, go to access to a gym. And the karate back then, Murphy gave me the Mexican rate, which was $6 a month. The American rate was $9 a month. Just to give you an idea of prices back then versus how they are now. Mm. So, and Gene Fisher, I wanted him to personally train me. And he would, he wouldn't do it. He didn't have time. And I said, Gene, come on, train me. And, and I was getting stronger and stronger. And I was always looking for anything to make a few extra dollars. I was a starving artist, and most of my money came from playing cards. And at that time, they were not big games by any means. They were small games. And so I said, Gene, hire me on. He says, no, with your sight situation, it's too dangerous. I just don't want to. I'm afraid you might get hurt. Construction work's dangerous. I said, come on, Gene, I promise. And I'll do it for free. You don't even have to pay me. And I said, oh, you just buy me enough food to fill me up. That's not a big deal. I harassed him. I said, okay, you're hired on. And he gave me one of the jobs that took a lot of energy. And that was when the cement was laid out. You're the one that chomping down that cement and the concrete as it's being poured. And there was a big foundation. And then Gene took all his people out to dinner. And he said, here's your money. I said, no. No. I said, I said, just fill me up and train me. Just give me some training. Anyway, so now dinner, he wants to pay me. I said, no, that wasn't the deal. I said, you just give me enough food to fill me up and train me. And so I wouldn't take his money. But then he was shocked at how much I ate. I said, but the deal was you have to fill me up. And I ordered 3 complete Mexican meals. With 3 complete dinners, ate every chop. And he goes, you can eat like that and you don't get fat? I'll train you. And just to give you an idea how much I eat, Diego, my 4th round of my test, he actually, it's in my book that I'm working on, he writes, yeah, back in 72, Murphys took us out to dinner and most people eat 3 or 4 tacos, but not Mr. Turner. No, he had to go all the way and eat 18 tacos. That's right, 18 tacos. And I had a Casa Bonita in Denver, Colorado. I was there on tour with Lance Players, the theater company I was with, Steve Terrell. And the weekday open, which was all-you-can-eat Mexican restaurant. It's the largest Mexican restaurant in the world, and still is, as far as I know. Seats 1,100 people. And it was back then. It was the daytime meals $1.89 for all you can eat. At night it was $3.49 for all you could eat. I had 5 enchiladas, 5 tamales, beans, rice, guacamole, chips, dip, 5 Pepsis, 5 glasses of water, and 16 tacos. One meal. And every time you raise this little flag when you want more. But within about every 90 seconds, I'd raise the flag, 3 more tacos, please, 3 more tacos. And she thought I was hiding them. So they start looking under the table like I'm going to steal from the restaurant by storing them away and taking them with me. And they look, he's eating those darn things. And then afterwards I said, hit me. I hit myself in the stomach, showing that it was all tucked away. But I don't know how I got off on that tangent or what the relevance was, but there's another story for you. Oh, the mentors. So that was Gene Fisher, how I got him to train me. And he trained me for 7 years. And he got me to where when I do pull downs, I weighed 135 at this time, and I could pull down 230, which is over 100 pounds more than I weighed. So he'd have to pull the bar down, had a T on the bottom. I'd lock my knees underneath that T. I'd do my reps. They'd have to lift me back up. And I could reverse curl 165 pounds, and I could curl 165 pounds. Once again, I weighed 135, between 135 to 140 during that time period. So I was curling a percentage more than I weighed. And that's where I'd go in, even at that time, and I'd say, hey, you might have to get a few warm-ups. And I'd take the two wheels on there and the bar, which was what they break it down to 135 pounds. I'd stand up over it and just start ripping off reps in there. A little guy, strong little guy. Anyway, so he was my third, and my fourth, of course, was Dai Vernon. Met him in 1975. I was working with Bob Yerkes on a Circus of the Stars. I lived with him because Steve Terrell set me up there when I was with the theater company, the Lambs Players. He set me up there because Bobby was going to donate one of the rope ladders to the Lambs Players, our theater company, when we would perform at Renaissance fairs, because you make a lot of money off those things. They have to try to climb this ladder. The ladder is a single cable, has a parachute swivel, and then it goes up at a V. And then the first run, it goes all the way up, and then it comes back to a single point to a thing with another parachute swivel. So as soon as you touch it, it just flips over on you. And it was a real trick. It wasn't a trick. What the secret was, I said, what's the secret? When I went up with Bob, the secret is practice. What's the secret to walking a tightrope? Practice. And so I actually created all the gymnastics on that thing. I climb it up, I climb down. I learned to climb up, flip around, come down backwards. I learned to climb up backwards and come down backwards. And I actually learned one where I went up feet first, climbed up feet first, and ringing the bell with my toes, and then come back down. And so anyway, I was working with Bob Yerkes on the Circus of the Stars and Wonder Woman. There's a TV series called Wonder Woman, starring Linda Carter, and we would do this. He was the stunt coordinator for that series, and so I'd work with him as we would train the different the stunt doubles for Linda or whoever it was that was doing the stunts for that particular episode. And I became 21. I turned 21 that year, and a guy named John Wagner said, Vernon heard that you can do some middles and seconds, and he's willing to meet with you. And this is what I've been waiting for, was to meet Professor Vernon. He was he's the single most influential person in the past 100 years in magic. For 100 years, he was the single most important person. He was the teacher of some of the greatest people that came out. Doug Canning, he got a grant from Canada to learn under Dai Vernon, all the way back to Sandy Marshall, Jay Marshall, who was he opened for Elvis, for Frank Sinatra, and anyway, all throughout the 20th century, Vernon was the one that was the key person, and because I was as nutty as he was, I became the recipient of that knowledge. And with Vernon, what was interesting about him is he would only, as a teacher, he would only teach you up to your level. Let me define that. In other words, say you're doing a double lip, which is a move for magicians. And a person does it in this one way. Vernon would say, that's not, but he'd show you a dozen other ways that are better. But then you say, Vernon, can you show me? Will you show me your second deal? If you couldn't do that second deal, wouldn't show you. He only worked with you up to what you could do. He did not give stuff away. And he was a lot of people got their start from Vernon, and he was known as the man who fooled Houdini. That took place 100 years ago. It was in Chicago, and Houdini had a boast that if he saw anything 3 times, he could figure out how it was done. And so Vernon had this card trick they would do, and he did it to Houdini 5 times. Finally, his wife says, admit it, Harry, he's fooled you. And Houdini didn't want to admit it, but he fooled him. And so to meet him was a big deal. And I found out, writer says, we're going to meet at the Batty Castle. And then he calls me the night before and says, oh, by the way, to get into the castle, you have to have a suit. And I said, a suit? You mean as in coat and tie? Yep. No getting into the castle without a suit. And you have to have ID showing 21. And you have to have a coat and tie. I thought, dang, I don't have a coat and tie. I couldn't afford a coat and tie. I didn't wear a coat and tie. I didn't like coat and tie. But I had to have a coat and tie. So I had to check my pocket. I had some 20s from some, gambling that I'd done. And then plus, my money working for Bobby. And so I go down to Northridge Shopping Center, set my clothes on a coat rack, and I start thumbing through coats. And this guy comes up to me, the sales guy says, "I'll cut you high card for that coat." I thought to myself, this is my lucky day. I said, "Okay." He goes, No, I'm just kidding. I said, "Tell you what, let's come over to your checkout counter." And I moved the stuff out of the way. I said, "I have 3 cards here. I have 2 2s and a queen. Look, I'm just going to move around. See that queen? See that queen? Move around. You follow that queen? You follow? You're following, okay?" So I tell you what, I'll move these around. If you tell me where that queen is, I'll pay double for the coat. If you miss it, you give me the coat for free, but you'll get double. Think about that. That's way more you make in the commission, right? And he goes, "Really?" I said, "Really? I'll do it." So I threw it. Darn if he didn't miss it. I said, "I'll tell you what, give you a chance to win your coat back. I bet the coat against a pair of pants." He said, "Okay." So I throw it. Darn if he didn't miss it again. Now he's getting worried because I don't know if he was going to be stealing it or if it was going to come out of his own pocket or how he was going to cover this. I said, "Tell you what, I'll give you a chance to get your coat and pants back. I bet your coat and pants gets a shirt and tie." Okay, but this is the last one. He lost it again. So I walked out of there with a brand new suit, didn't pay a dime. And went in, and that's when I first met Professor Vernon, met at the library at the Magic Castle. And there was another guy that was there named Tony Giorgio. There's a movie called The Godfather, a classic movie, considered one of the top 10 movies of all times. And Tony Giorgio played Bruno Tattaglia in the film, which was Vito Corleone's toughest henchman. There's a famous scene in that movie where there's an actor stabbing a knife, pinning a guy's hand to the bar top. The actor is Tony Giorgio. And so in the library is Vernon, and at this other table is Tony Giorgio, who, as I would say for years, he didn't act in the movie. He just played himself, a mean, nasty mafia hitman. And so every time I do something for Vernon, Giorgio would pipe in, "Won't get the money, won't get the money." I'd do something else, "Won't get the money." Every time we were just, we weren't even there to see him. And of course, even Vernon says, "I don't care how fine the brief is. When you deal like that, I know you're up to something." And so Vernon wasn't really any more impressed than Giorgio. But Vernon says, "Now hold your hand still." He held my hand still. "Now do it. Now that's better. Now that's better." And so I remember what he said about his unnatural looking. And I don't want to go off on more tangents, but that kind of laid the foundation for me to realize you got to be natural in what you do. But the bottom line is Vernon took a liking to me for whatever reason. And I got to spend 17 years with him, and I became the recipient of a century worth of his most guarded card table information. And that's the most closely guarded of all sleight of hand, all forms of gambling, sleight of hand, is the gambling work, because that's where real money is made, at the table, not performing shows. So the stuff of the shows, magicians are real open about it, but the table stuff, that was the secret of all secrets. And so I became the recipient of, like I said, a century worth of his most guarded card table secrets, because he spent his life seeking out gamblers and hustlers around the country and around the world to learn their moves. And then he would spend his life developing. Then he would start telling me things about some guy he met in 1919, Dad Stevens, dealt with this second deal in this particular way. And he never was able to accomplish it. And I would take that concept, what he told me, and then 6 months later, that's it. In fact, that's better than Stevens. And so he became my other mentor. So I've had 4 people that kind of built what I become and I became. And I tell them, when I was with Murphey, I let them know, I said, I thank you. I would not be where I am if it wasn't for you. And he's like a second father to me. And I tell Steve Terrell the same thing. I said, you don't like to hear it, but I would not be where I am today without you taking time with this punk little kid that couldn't see the actor in front of him. And of course, Gene Fisher has passed on, and Professor Vernon has passed on. But Professor Vernon still, I was already, very well known internationally when Vernon passed on. He kind of spread the news around the world about this guy named Turner. But anyway, those are my mentors, and I was very blessed and very fortunate have them, and they laid the foundation for me to have become whatever you want to call me. Most people call me crazy.
Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Check out the description, and of course, I'd highly appreciate if you subscribe, click like, spread the word about the podcast. Also, if you'd like to receive a regular newsletter with my key takeaways about each episode, go ahead and subscribe to it on runchukspodcast.com. That's RUNCHUKS podcast.com. I write those myself, I take it seriously, and I really enjoy the interaction with the readers, so I hope you'll sign up, and I'll be back for you next time. Thank you.